while I was working with this show, I was thinking of the term liquid crystals. It's like something connected to a childhood memory, perhaps, about pocket calculator I had with like digital numbers, and I was instead of taking part of the mathematics, I was enjoying myself with putting pressure with my index finger on the glass display, and the numbers started floating, and the colors and patterns turned up, and so that was just like an image and an idea as a starting point. The conflict or tension between, let's say, science and something that would be like the opposite of that, rational thinking. And same thing maybe goes for the actual title, Light Years. I noticed I work very much by intuition when painting, and at some point the work seemed like getting darker and darker at some point, and to me it's all a balancing act. So in one sense I thought of the title Light Years as to me the sound of that word, the light in the word was like putting some light into the darkness, and the idea of light working its way through space in order to measure time. It was also kind of a starting point for paintings. So it often works that way, an interaction between words and images. The images comes first, and then the words, and sometimes they're like woven together. The source material for my paintings are like, as I guess a lot of artists work with, like a lot of different sources, and it's not that I'm purposely seeking something specific. It's when on internet or watching TV or a newspaper, some images for different reason catches my interest. For example, I stumbled over this image of a flamingo family, and I have no particular interest in birds and flamingos, but it was something, I guess, in the composition. It was a still, and it was like a family situation among those birds, and so instead of starting out with asking myself, why should I ever pay attention to this and make a painting of it, I rather started out doing it, and out of curiosity, and see where it will take me, and the final work. And afterwards I've been thinking about it, and I believe one thing that with this particular bird, the flamingo, is like the artificial quality of their appearance. It's definitely nature, but to me they look totally man-made, and like something like an Art Nouveau artist would have invented, and I like that, and also in the situation in the image. the balance between caretaking and perhaps threat and violence. And for me, it's not what keeps work interesting for myself is when I can keep it on a level where like there's different forces and different interests that are equally strong. So when I manage to keep those forces in balance, it's when a painting start to work on its own, live its own life in a way. So that's what I try to achieve. Sometimes in my work I tend to like avoid harmony and beauty, or I don't know the correct words for it, but the painting tends to be ruined, or it's imbalance, and it's as if the work and the composition is collapsing, and I'm interested in that, but when it's leaning too much towards that, I have to be there with some like tenderness for the subject and for the composition, and so that's where the tension is, and my intention is, although it's narrative and figurative work, my intention is not to tell a specific story, but I guess in the end it's about being alive, and it's about life and death and love. That's when people ask me what is it about, I think they will have to do with an answer like that. It's like big subjects, but it's that I try to hide behind. My studio is normally like a total mess and chaos. At least that's what it looks like when working with the show. And sometimes I envy colleagues that have everything in place and order in their studio, and I always think that other artists or other painters, they start out with a painting and a very clear idea what it's going to be, and they paint it and finish it and put it aside, and then goes to the next painting. I would like to, but I never managed to work that way. To me, it's all about the dialogue between the different pieces, and it's driven by my own curiosity, but also my own impatience with the working process. So I tend to go from one painting to the next, and if I get stuck, I start with a new one. So in the end, I have all the paintings unfinished at the same time, and they tend to be finished at the same time, and it's sometimes a frustrating, of course, process, but it's also for me a way to keep the paintings alive and open during the whole process, and I like to think of them both in the process of painting them, but also after they're installed. I like to think of the relationship between the different works, and as if they're like dreaming of each other or thinking of each other. So even though it's not about dreams, and I don't use dreams as inspiration as such, but I'm interested in like the structure of the dream, and then the way narrative tends to be presented to the dreamer. Like there's certain logic and aim to it, but it's not easily retold. You have to see it with your own eyes and experience it. It's funny. Of course, I'm interested in other artists. I look at a lot of painting and contemporary and from art history, and I do have a deep interest and relationship to other artists, but I'm not interested in like quoting or referring to other artists, but to my own surprise, it sometimes seems like I am, but in a way, I sound. It's as if I'm stupid or totally innocent, but I'm sometimes surprised myself because my idea behind a small painting within a painting, when I'm doing something very abstract, I get surprised when it like echoes something from 20th century modernism, but that wasn't my intuition and idea. But one period that I've been interested in for a long time is like Neue Sachlichkeit, painting in the German painting from the 1920s, and like the thing with that painting that it was so contemporary, but at the same time was looking back into like German painting history, and also the sometimes very like political, straightforward and radical, but also at the same time being accused for like moving backwards towards something like old-fashioned, and to me it's a lot of those paintings are like subversive in a way. Even a still life with a cactus, when you look at it, it's not no hidden political message, but when you see it, it's clear why the Nazis hated that kind of painting. Otherwise, I try to approach my own work as if it was all abstract. At some point, I find myself there. Even if it's clearly figurative work or details, at some point I try not to think of the representational aspects of it, more like treating all the different objects as if it was just shapes and colors and forms, and then the like psychological aspects of what I'm doing are comes later as and unexpected sometimes for me. Often the meaning or the narrative of the work is like developed, and it's something like lurking behind and catches up on me month after the work was finished. in a way, I do read a lot, and I'm interested in poetry and literature, and I guess it's a source of inspiration, and in a way, it's also I like the idea of my work, the narrative aspects of my work. So clearly, reading novels, for example, it can be fuel to my painting, but I'm not a storyteller in that sense, and but sometimes it's literature comes in handy when stealing titles and emotions from books that I've read. I think for me, painting is a way of thinking, and to make sense of it, I have to keep going. So I like it. I think I'm driven by like curiosity, and when doing the actual work, it's like creating energies and ideas for new paintings, and so it's difficult to sit down and think of what the next exhibition or the next painting would be about, and how it should look. It's only by working and experimenting in the studio that when I do that, one thing leads to the other. And it's funny because I at some point always there's a lot of doubt in my work, and it's an unwelcome feeling, but I also realized that it's a necessity for me to question what I'm doing, and it has to go through the process has to go through some darkness before the light in the tunnel becomes visible. I don't think I'm very thankful for the viewers, the beholders, to eventually show up, but I try not to think too much about them when working. I think of myself as a beholder. I try to. I'm so close to my own work, so I try to experiment with like distance and distancing myself in a way from it when it's done. So I try to look at it as if it was made by someone else. That's not possible, but it's good exercise to try. I hear myself referring to my work as paintings, but I guess they are, but it's also like they're collages or assemblages that are put together, and that's an important part of the execution of the work, and I think I try to stay in that mood as long as possible. So when installing this exhibition, I had the idea that the gallery space was always already, someone had been there before me putting up posters on the wall, and I installed the paintings regardless of that. So it's carefully done, but it's I like the idea of it looking like something just happening, and in a way, to me, the imagery is kind of, even if it's maybe difficult to make an interpretation of it, it's visually clear and strong for me, and I tend to move towards something ambiguous, and so that's why, for example, in the painting behind me, there's this big portrait, but it's already there on the wall in dialogue with itself. So it's also a way for me to like challenge my own work, to like disturb, see what it can, how it can be still work, but being interrupted by forces from the outside in a way. When showing my work in other countries, it's funny. Sometimes I hear that this looks very Swedish in a way. I don't know. I tend to not think too much about like national identity and stuff like that, but I do guess my work is to a certain degree rooted in like a northern tradition of painting, but it's more like a tune or a feeling. It's hard to pinpoint. I also think about, I listen to a lot of music while working, and sometimes I think of the compositions. I'm not a practicing musician at all, but I like to think of the paintings as musical compositions, but also an exhibition where some themes are repeated and reoccurring. It's like in a song where the verse and chorus are coming after each other, and so it's interesting to think of like different formats and relate your own work to it, like an LP. It's I think of making an exhibition is a bit like recording a record, and you have to decide which song is the first on the record and which one is the last one or the third song on the B side of the record. To me it makes sense to move the imagery out of the visual context and try to place it in different medias.